There we go. See? Things that are important, but really what I want to talk about is me thinking versus we thinking. And I think if we're beginning this new year in 2021, and we're talking about those kind of things, Solomon runs into this me versus we thinking when he has a dream and God appears to him and says, ask whatever you want. Ask whatever you want and I'll give it to you. And Solomon's answer is a good answer because it's a we answer instead of a me answer. God himself even says so. In fact, it reminds me a lot of a story I heard was a professor at a seminary gathered all together in a group, and the department chairs were all there, and the president of the seminary was present, and they were all having this giant meeting, and an angel appeared. And the angel showed up and told them all the good that you've done for the Christian church and the world and all of your hard work and all of your suffering. Today, he said to the president, I will give you whatever you wish. Just ask. Would you like money, long life, fame, power? And the president, without thinking about it, he says, wisdom. I need wisdom. Done, the angel says. Poof, he disappears. Everybody sits there quietly for a couple of minutes and just looks at him while the president stares off into space a little. And then finally someone says, well, say something. And he looks at all of them slowly and then says, I should have taken the money. We laugh because that's exactly how we think. We're pretty sure that's the right answer in the long run anyway, because all of us think principally as me people, not we people. Oh, sure, if I'd have taken the money, I might have tithed on it. Oh, sure, I might have given more to missions. But in the end, I was voting for me, not for we. And it's not just individuals that do this, because Solomon isn't talking as an individual. He's talking as a whole country. Churches all over the United States have fallen into me thinking. We have to be concerned about us. We have to be concerned about taking care of our own. We have to be concerned about our budget. And in the end, they're slowly dying because of it. There's whole countries. All of the problems that we run into as a nation end up being because of either we or me thinking. Anybody remember by any chance our vision statement as a church? Can you come up with it? Let's try this one. As a church, we are seeking, by God's grace, to bring all of South Florida into a transforming relationship by connecting them to God and to one another. We're transforming South Florida and the people of South Florida by connecting them to God and to one another, which is a great vision statement. And it's because of everything we're talking about today. It's a great vision statement because what we didn't say in that vision statement was, we see a brand new building, or we see fat budgets, or we see, ask, God says to Solomon, whatever you want, ask. And that's an imperative, by the way. It doesn't give him room to say, I don't know, Lord, what do you think? Some of you might say that, but Solomon gets an imperative and says, ask whatever you want, and I'll give it to you. And Solomon says, first of all, Lord, you've done so much already. Through my father David and to me, everything you've done for us is amazing. But now here I am. I'm the king in this vast number of people, and I don't know how to do this. I need wisdom, Lord, in order to serve your people better. And God, I don't know if it was a test or not, but if it was a test, apparently Solomon passes with flying colors. And God says, all right, not only am I going to give you wisdom, but as a bonus, it's like a game show or something, as a bonus, you get riches, honor, power, and he says, you'll even get long life if you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and my commandments. It's unusual for a couple of reasons. One, because of who we are as human beings, we don't usually think we. we think me. After all of our life we've been trained like that. All of our life, stuff that happens, at least from our perspective, happens to me. Everything that takes place happens to me. If the traffic is bad today, it's all about how it affects me. If my cousin doesn't act like she's supposed to, it's because it impacts me. If the world isn't dancing the way I want them to dance, then they're impacting me. And that's bad. And I should be happy. And then on top of that, the whole of the world is trying hard to convince you that your real task is to be happy, and here's what you need for it. And so tons of websites and people that will teach you all about financial security. Because without financial security, how could you possibly be happy? And then there's, of course, all of the sites on there, and you probably saw them on Christmas time, and the catalogs you get mailed to you that convince you, without these things, you couldn't possibly be happy. You need some of these items. You need to collect some of this stuff. You need to have all this. And then in the health industry, I mean, happy for a short period of time is fine, but what you really want is health so you can be happy for a long time. So we're happy to sell you programs that will help with your diet, and will help with your exercise, and will help you be happy and healthy. Everything, even college degrees. You really need one of them. How can you be dumb and be happy? You need a college degree, so you should have one of those. Everywhere we go, people are convincing us that the purpose in life is for us to be happy, for me to be satisfied. Everything will be going well when I get all my needs met. And then Solomon comes to God. God comes to Solomon, and says, ask for whatever you want. Have you ever played this game, by the way? I'm sure you have. What if God offered you anything you wanted, what would you have? I asked a confirmation class that one year, and I think they were all trying to impress the teacher. You know, they're telling me what they think I want to hear. Like, what would you ask for if God offered you anything? I'd ask God to make me a missionary in a far-off country so I could help people to be saved. Yeah, right. I'd ask God to make me a doctor in an underserved area so that I could save lives. They got more and more as they went. People started building on this story. Finally, I get to one kid who just happens to be my kid. Sitting in the back, kind of looking up. I said, all right, so what would you ask for? And he says, well, I don't know. I was kind of thinking I'd ask for a dog. Well, at least you're honest. At least you're honest. I'm sure you played this game. I'm sure you thought about it. What if I could have anything? What if God made me the same offer? What would I ask for? Solomon turns to God and says, what I really need is to be able to serve your people better, and I think this is about them, not me. And so he asks for something that's good for the people, and that is a leader with wisdom. And it's unusual because, of course, like I just said, as humans, we tend to think me, not we. And then secondly, do you remember anything about Solomon's family? You remember Solomon is the son of Bathsheba. Bathsheba was the wife of David, his father's best friend, and David sent the guy out into battle intentionally to get him killed so he could take his wife for himself. Which, I would say makes the marriage complicated. I think we'd say on Facebook now. It's complicated. Yeah, I bet it was. And then on top of that, Solomon is not the oldest son of David's, and so he shouldn't necessarily be the king. David's oldest son, Amnon, in classic me thinking, like his father, decided he wanted his half-sister to sleep with him, forced her into it, and then afterwards decided, I've had enough of you, get out. Which made his brother so angry, his brother ended up killing him. His brother, later on, would then, Absalom, decide I should be king, not my dad, and so he started a revolt. Great me-thinking stuff. I need to be the one in charge. I'm tired of listening to my father. And he gets killed for it by trying to start a revolt. The third son on the list at least waits until David's on his deathbed. I mean, David's sick. He's been sick for a long time. So Adonijah waits until David's almost gone, but not quite. And then he proclaims himself to be king, and he marries David's favorite concubine just to prove he's got the stuff. Ends up getting killed for that, too. You feel it, by the way, feeling any better about your family after hearing about Solomon's family? I mean, this is a nightmare. I know you complain sometimes. I know it bothers you once in a while about these people you're related to, but it's not like this. And God, by the way, still used David, Solomon, and that family to do great things in the world. And despite your family and your history, he's willing to use you too. With all of that in his background, all that me thinking, all of that selfish behavior, somehow when God comes to Solomon in a dream and says, ask whatever you want, Solomon thinks weak. Lord, your people are great, and I am small. I need help to lead them. You look anywhere in your life, in the life of the church, in the life of our country, anywhere in the world, when you find conflict, you'll find me thinking. The Israeli-Gaza thing that goes on constantly, me thinking. The Muslim extremists persecuting the Christians, me thinking. Our ongoing national debate about immigration, me thinking. Everywhere you get a conflict in your marriage, me thinking. Anywhere we get a conflict in the church, me thinking. It goes on and on and on. If you can find conflict, now I'm not saying that we thinking would solve all of that. It's not that simple. But I can tell you it would make us behave differently toward one another if we thought we and not me. I'll give you a great example for some of you. If you're married, have you ever walked in the door and had your spouse say, honey, we need to talk? Can you feel your gut tightening up right now as you think about it? Can you feel your defenses going up like you're about to prepare for war? You know why that is? Everybody in any relationship, but especially in a marriage relationship, they want open, honest, transparent, deep communication with one another. That's how you envisioned it when you first got started. But then you get started, and you find out that they don't think like you do. They don't act like you do. You'd like things to go the way you want them to go, but they want them to go a different way. And you get into conflict because you both want me. The conflict, rather than deal with that, you end up not, you know how you can tell a married couple in a restaurant?
The ones that aren't speaking.
The ones that are not talking to each other. That's right. That's exactly right. They're not talking to each other, not because they've run out of things to say. It's because they're afraid of what they might hear. Me thinking is the cause of conflict. We thinking would help resolve it. His attitude, his request, Solomon's request, is not unlike what Paul writes in the book of Philippians when he says, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there's any excellence, if there's anything worthy of praise, think about these things. Expend effort, he says, to think about these things. Take the time to think about these things. And when I do, I am reminded of two things right away. First of all, that I am a sinner. And those are not the things I most enjoy thinking about. They point me to the fact that no matter how hard I try, I'm incapable of keeping that up. And that then points me to the fact that I need God. and it turns me to him. The ultimate version of we thinking. The Son of God who came into the world not to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for many. The one who thought of the we, and so he exchanged his righteousness for my unrighteousness. The complete unfairness of all of that, how it just isn't right that he should take my unrighteousness and die for it and pay for my problems, and yet he chose to do it anyway. That's the God I need to know. That's the God I need to have. That's the kind of behavior God now calls us to as well. It's not an easy thing to learn, but we can. Anybody remember Katrina? Right? She came through untold amounts of suffering. People dead in the streets, other people gathered, huddled inside that giant stadium, all kinds of people doing all kinds of suffering, and for really, other than the storm, one primary reason. They told them a week before that, you need to evacuate the city, and they didn't get around to it. Right? You remember this? They knew way in advance, you need to get out of here, this is not going to be good. And there were people that day that started looking around for a gas station just in case they had to go somewhere. That day. Anybody remember Rita? Less than a month later, huge hurricane comes through and hits the same coast. The same group of people. Texas got hit harder this time even. This time when they told them, you need to evacuate, there were towns of 50 and 100,000 people that had tumbleweeds rolling down the streets. Because this time when they said evacuate, they evacuated. We can learn. It's possible. It's just not always easy. When we said in that vision statement that we were about the business of connecting the people of South Florida into transforming relationships by connecting them to God and to one another. When we talked about what we would do, all of us together in South Florida, in our community of Miramar, in the cities of Fort Lauderdale and Miami, all around us, we were talking about a we statement. That's not always easy. Solomon had a dream, but it didn't stay a dream, did it? It says in verse 15, and then he woke up. At some point, Solomon had to turn it into reality. Solomon had to walk in that dream. We said, we're going to connect people to God and to one another. Sounds like a dream, but it won't stay a dream, will it? 2021 may show us whether we really believe in that we thinking or not, because we've been woke and we walk forward in it now day by day through the rest of this year and even beyond that. Jesus Christ came into the world and gave his life so that you and I could be connected to him. Now through us, he connects people to himself and to each other. We thinking versus me thinking. It's not easy, but you can learn it. In Jesus' name, amen.